Piper puts her hand on Vegito's shoulder, which in a previous scene we would have seen him tell her never to touch him again. He does not want to be touched, doesn't like being touched, and she has forgotten herself and put her hand on his shoulder. He whirls around and snarls, and he looks very scary, and he grabs her wrist, and she just kind of looks like she's in shock. There's a close-up of Vegito's very large hand, and he feels himself start to clench Piper's arm, and he thinks about breaking her wrist, but something stops him. He looks at her, and she gasps, and he pauses. There will be flashbacks here. Eventually, he snaps out of his flashbacks, and he blinks, and he kind of looks down, and he's just numb. And he looks at her, and his eyes kind of soften. The Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes that day. He grabs her wrist, but he doesn't have the same bloodlust he's had in the past when someone has done something that's upset him. But as he looks at Piper, she has an expression on her face very similar to his sister when he had an altercation with her when they were younger, and they're both saying the same thing. Piper's saying, "I'm so sorry, it's completely my fault." So he lets go of her and he jumps back. I'm so stupid. You already told me not to touch you. I'm sorry. I guess I just wasn't thinking. He's grumbly. He doesn't really want to acknowledge what he was feeling or thinking, because Piper doesn't seem to have noticed. I've been having a really bad time of everything lately. And then you helped me with my leg when I was hurt, and I thought you had forgiven me for how rude I was to you when I first met you. But I know I have to earn that forgiveness, and I'm sorry I overstepped again. I know I've made a mess of everything. It was just nice to feel like I had a friend again. Vegito is not facing her, but he is grumbling to himself, and she looks kind of down and sad. Do you ever get lonely too? He can't handle it anymore. He pushes her out of the way, and she's a little bit in shock and a bit insulted because she was opening up and he is not having it.
Gross, out of my way.
Vegito jumps up into the canopy, but he leaves Piper down on the ground.
Wow, I really don't want to be here by myself, especially if they have heavy weaponry available, so can I just... Oh my god!
Vegito's arm comes down from behind her like a monkey and grabs her, and he drags her up into the trees. The leaves fall. She's flailing and screaming. So Piper looks around, and she realizes that she is in a hammock made of leaves. And she's kind of surprised. And she sees Vegito pulling leaves off the trees and doing something with them she can't quite see. There's fruit hanging over your head. Take some if you're hungry. And he turns away from her, and what the audience sees, but Piper doesn't see, is that he is making a second hammock, because the hammock she is sitting in is his bed. So he's making a new hammock, but he's trying not to make it obvious. Piper's just kind of numb, and she does look up over her head, and she does see that there is fruit, and he's right. So she reaches up to take some, and off-screen Vegito says to her, "You can stay here until you're able to walk. It's safe." "Thank you. I'm not completely barbaric, you know." And she looks up, all touched. And it's very reminiscent of the scene in Beauty and the Beast where the Beast is eating, like, the soup or the porridge or whatever it is, and it's disgusting and sloppy, and he's eating it like he's an animal. And same thing, Vegito now has his little leaf hammock, and he is tearing into a piece of fruit and getting it all over him. So he is a bit barbaric, but at least he was a gentleman this time around.